So the continuation, this will be our third section of learning on the Maamer Micha. And at this point, where we got up to was that we were speaking about the idea of the meaning within the word echad and the philosophy, the meditation that's in the word echad, that it does not mean the numeric one, but in fact conveys a higher meaning, and in that Hashem is unified. But we ask the question, why do we need to use the word echad? Surely yochid is better. And we came to the conclusion, we were suggested the conclusion, obviously with further study we'll understand that better, but the word echad also brings in the idea, the meditation in the word echad, that the Aleph represents God as he is the creator of all existence. He has created the other parts connotated by the other letters in the echad, that is the daled, the letter 4, which alludes to the 4 corners of the world, which contains created entities, and their existence does not contradict God's exclusivity, because they are entirely nullified to the Aleph. We also have the idea that's in the Ches, which that alludes to the physical world and as well as the spiritual world, and that itself also doesn't preclude the idea of exclusivity, this does not contradict the idea of exclusivity, in that because we understand that they are all nullified, all the entities, certainly the entities of the physical world represented by the Dalet, and certainly the levels which are represented in the Ches, being the world and the 7 heavens, spiritual worlds, they all are nullified to the Aleph, to God as he is as God, how he is represented in his higher state. He is totally aloof and connected to the world, but beyond the world. Now, part of that idea that's represented in that is that the Aleph represents God as the creator, and therefore anything that he created, which is part of the Dalet and part of the Ches, are all nullified to him, in that he is their creator. Therefore, they're all nullified. We are going to spend time elaborating on this concept, and we look for some other areas where this is discussed. In the last lesson, we mentioned the Medrash. We mentioned a Medrash, and that Medrash has implications to the idea that every physical entity and even spiritual entities have a spiritual root and a source. And this is referred to, these energies, these spiritual roots are referred to as each one's muzzle, at each particular creation's muzzle, and each one is on a loftier level. They are themselves angels, which are then subsumed and nullified to godliness. Now, in that medrash, it mentioned that the idea of it mentioned that they were foliage, and it mentioned grass, and in note 47 in the True Existence book, Right? He's got a very interesting note, and we can read that together. The Zohar, the Zohar, which was quoted, states that foliage refers to angels, and they're angels which must be recreated each day, since they repeatedly escape their existence. And what does he mean by that? Well, the Zohar means that they have used up their energy source, and they have subsumed themselves to the higher layer, and therefore they've escaped their spiritual existence and they need to be recreated. That second half of the verse, when it speaks to grass, refers to the ministering angels called Seraphim, Ophanim, and the Chayot, which we mention in our prayers, in the blessings prior to the Kriya Shema, before we read the Shema in the mornings. They're examples of angels who endure in their existence because they are designed for the upkeep of the world and mankind. Therefore, and they are called as if they are grass. Now, that's that's the note, and that's an interesting teaching, in that there are parts of the spiritual kingdom that get consumed, and then there are parts of the spiritual kingdom that are needed for the infrastructure of the continuation of the world and for the existence of mankind, and they stay in existence. But that is to teach us also that there are components within the spiritual world that can be consumed, might have a body in the sense of that they have a body that exists in a spiritual plane, a spiritual body, but then also get consumed. And they are created from the level of godliness, which is called the ayin, a nothing, meaning that because we, the created beings, don't perceive them and don't understand them, we call them something as if it doesn't exist. We call it an ayin. We call it we don't know where it comes from. So we call it ayin as if it's non-perceived. So now let's continue with the main text. So the text says as follows: with that as a understanding, with what exactly what understanding are we talking about? That the previous Medrash told us about, that there are some spiritual existences on one plane, and above that plane there are the Malachim, which give them energy. So therefore that points out to us that there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy allows a procession of energies to come down from the spiritual realm, to proceed through the infrastructure of the spiritual realm from higher to lower. So using these ideas, we continue, and we say, so there is this expression. So shenosu dashim kal b'choyma ba'atzmam. In the Gemara 50, in the Talmud, in Tractate Culling, on page 60a, there's a reference to the plants that didn't allow themselves to crossbreed. Now, the expression in the Talmud says that the plants applied a kal v'chomer. It's a logic in the form of an a priori. In Hebrew, we call it a kal v'chomer. And they said to themselves, in relationship to not non-mingling of their type, so that the types of seed of the vegetable realm shouldn't be mixed together. The idea being there that Hashem created things in its order and in its classes, and the seed of animal and the seed of human shouldn't be mixed together, nor should other seeds which are not of the same sort be mixed together. Right, so the plants then applied a kal v'chomer on themselves, and they said, if regarding trees we know that they should not be grafted one to each other, the verse states that it should be to their kind. So shenosu deshenim, the grass applied themselves the rule kal v'chomer ba'atzmon, and said ma ilonas, just as the trees she'ena darcham letzeis ba'arubia do not come out and do not produce themselves in an intermingled fashion, as the pasuk says, liminehem, they should come out in their kind. In the original creation, when God created them, they were told to come out in their kind, meaning as their own groups. Onu, the Talmud continues, shadarkeno letzeis ba'arubia, so atz vegetation, which can sometimes come out mingled together, right? Alachas kama v'kama, we should take care not to come out in a crossbreeded fashion. Okay, so now we can investigate that a little bit in a moment, but just to continue on with the flow that he's saying. So what the point that the Maamer wants to say at this point is that how's it possible for animals to talk? They can't talk to themselves. How could the Talmud refer to them as talking? So then it goes on and says, Shalachera, Yipole Eich Yisod Deshenim Kal V'chomer B'atzmam. How could the grass apply a Kal V'chomer to themselves? Halot Sameach. They are from the realm of vegetation. And how is it possible that they can even talk or have some sort of power of speech, some logic to infer a kal v'chomer? So it must mean, if the Talmud is quoting this, it must mean that the spiritual source of these entities, the spiritual source of these entities are the one who made these kal v'chomer, not the grass themselves, but its spiritual source, lending credence to the idea that we introduced before, that every existence in this physical world has got a spiritual counterpart, and that spiritual counterpart has capabilities in a hierarchical sense, and they are the ones that applied this kal v'chomer, as if to say that they have knowledges and logics. And what is that? So continuing on the text, so the grass and the leaves, they can't make a kal v'chomer. Ki'im, but what is it? Shorsha u'makera, it is their source, and Baruchni is in the spiritual sense, Shu b'chinas hamazal, which is what we referred to before as the muzzle, their spiritual counterpart above, mi'al gavoya, in the heights, ad malachim elyonim, up to their other origins, to the supernal angels, which have the capability, sheyesh behem hadibur, that they have a power of communication, or a dibur, speech, she'emrim, because we know that the angels sing praise to Hashem, and that they have logic. She'emrim shira, they say songs, behem yechlim gamkein loses kal v'chema, and they are capable of making this kal v'chema. So, va'im kol zeh, heim makirim al b'chinat zetzameach. So in spite of their superiority, nevertheless, they serve as the origin of plant life. Hu ika b'chinas hamidas, because they are, like plant growth, they are a manifestation of what we call spiritual midos, spiritual emotions, the midos, shehem bechinas semichas katnus, because midos, emotions, grow from a state of smallness to a state of largeness. And we know that in the example of a human being and his emotions, as he ages, he matures in his spiritual, in his emotive capabilities grow to a higher level. Similarly, also, a manifestation of this growth comes from something spiritual called emotions, which in a physical format can be represented as grass and growing seed as they grow and mature. And we know that the angels can grow if they have a higher mission and they expand in their resources. So they grow from immaturity to maturity. So before they get a job, before they're shlichus as an angel, before it gets sent on a mission, v'lashas shlichus, and its times of shlichus, it grows in its resources and its capabilities. Therefore, they exhibit a emotive type of characteristic. That emotive characteristic is defined by, or is similar to, I should say, and we can understand it via a human, a neshama's emotions, because we see that the emotions mature. It grows. It goes from one state of maturity to another state of maturity. So therefore we call it emotions. And also in his text, he talks about before, as the angels sing their shira, as the angels sing their songs to Hashem, they grow in their capabilities of apprehension, of understanding Hashem, and they grow in their emotions and get stronger as we see in a comparative state. When a human being starts discussing something and gets energized by something, he grows, he might talk louder and louder. He grows in that sense. So also the emotions grow. Continuing the text. The Ashat Smicha, but Tesefes, he bahagdela Tesefes v'ribui. The growth and the added stature of these angels can grow to such an extent in that while they're fulfilling their missions, ad kibashasa shlichus, because at the time of their doing of their job, Yochel Malach, the angel who is normally absolutely nullified in the presence of his master doing the job, but he grows to the extent where the Malach Likra Esatzmai can call himself B'Shem Hashem, can call himself in the name of Hashem. As an example, as we have in the verse, when it was written, when angels came to visit Abraham, and they said, Binishbati num havaya. They said, I have sworn to myself, says God. The idea of saying of I have sworn, he's calling himself I, the angel. In other words, he's representing Hashem. At the same time, he's growing in the point where he can call himself Hashem. Because and it also called Tikra Shem Hashem Hadema Alea. And it's also written that that Hagog, when she got the name, when she was addressed by an angel, could also call herself something. Hainu. And why is that? Because Shabashasa Shlichus, because at the time when the angel is carrying out his message, Ubotel Gamri, he is completely nullified, to the point where he's taken over entirely by his mission. He's representing God. So he can even call himself Shema Mashalach, by the name of the one who sent him, because he is totally nullified. Kol Mehusa, his whole essence, Lagamri, as he has only the power of his appointment, as Hashem's angel. Therefore, in a sense, we can see that the angels have a capability, Harizeh Kamoshal. This is like, in a sense, like Hatzameach. That's in a sense like growing, Shemishtana Mekatnas Vegatlas, where the angels grow from small to large. Velochin Heim Mekirim, and therefore the angels can become something which give energies to, and can provide capabilities to their representative creations below, like grass, and they are the source for the level of Hatzameach, for vegetation. Agam ki yesh behem hadibur, even though the Malachim themselves might have the power of a speech, that part is not given to them. But Gamkain im kozeh ikuhu hamida, but their main part is the primary characteristics, is that their growth via emotion. So therefore, this explains another passage where it says, "V'zeh Omer Rabbeinu." That's why our rabbis say, therefore our sages of blessed memory can say, but Medrash Rabbah, in Medrash Rabbah, they can use in Parshas Truma, they can say, Kol ma sheyesh lamayla yesh lamata. Everything that exists above exists below. Lamayla, above, they are as seraphim, aimdim, they are the seraphim which stand. Velamato, and down below, their capabilities have given to Atzei Shittim Aimtim, to tall standing cedar trees. And further, the verse says, Oz Yirananu Kol Ayatza Yar. We have a quote in Tehillim where it says that all the trees of the forest sing. Can they really sing? What is the meaning of that? This is a reference to, as he continues, Ala Malachim. This is a reference to the angels, Shenikroim B'Shem Atzayar. This is a reference to the angels, which are called the fruit of the trees of the forest. Because they take energies from a supernal source, and then which is provided to the ilonos, to the trees, the shanim shalamata, and the vegetation below. So also, like we've explained like we've also explained, in relationship to the angels and to the vegetation, there is also energies above which provide energies to all aspects, all creations which exist in our physical realm, including mankind, including humans. So he continues and he says, Kehot Cain. So in a similar way, B'min Hatzameach, within the class of vegetations, of tzameach, of desha, of grass, aseb, ilonas, trees, Kehot Cain hu, b'chol protei hadvorim, in every aspect of creation that exists, in the four classes of creation, Deme, Tzameach, Chai, Medaber, within the class of inanimate, so Deme is inanimate objects, Tzameach, vegetation, flora, Chai, the realm of living animals, roaming animals, mobile, moving animals, Umedaber, and mankind. They are all Shenias Hava b'Maisa Bereshis. They were all part of what got created in God's original creation in the beginning, in Bereshis, in the narrative of creation, to the point where we can say that a specific animal has some specific characteristics, and those specific characteristics are representative of some spiritual energies in the heaven. And when those spiritual energies in the heaven get announced, get revealed, there's a reflection down below of those energies. What that is, he's going to give an example in a moment. He's going to give an example of that in a moment. But before we get to there, that idea is represented in what we've been talking about. What we've been talking about, there is a spiritual hierarchy, and that spiritual hierarchy gives effect to and supplies energies and activities to the world below, to our physical world. And when we might see something ordinary in our physical world, our sages have told us that's a representation of something which has happened in the heavens, in the spiritual realms. An example that Chassidus brings will be forthcoming. And in that example, we are to take that as an example of effects of what happened in the spiritual realms and affect the physical realms in relationship to that. So far, we've discussed some examples, and now he wants to pick up a very specific example of how something in the heavens is reflected down below, and we don't seem to understand that quite clearly, but is mentioned, and as follows. He continues, like our sages state in the Talmud brachas, and it defines a blessing of the morning blessings that we do. It says over there that when the rooster crows, a person is allowed to say the bracha which relates to the crows crowing, And we say the bracha, Mavorach Hanesen Lesech Vino. So the text says, we can say the bracha, Kad Kori Tarnagolto, when the chickens crow, when the rooster crows, Mavorach, we say Hanesen Lesech Vino, we say this blessing, which says a blessing to Hashem who grants the rooster understanding to distinguish between day and night, because it is the end of the night period, the day is starting, the crow crows. Okay, now that's what it says in the Talmud. Our text is saying, Shalachera Eina Moven. Well, at first glance, this doesn't, we don't really understand this. What's this idea about God gives knowledge, gives understanding to a tarnagal, to the crow, and why particularly about giving knowledge to the crow in particular, that he differentiates between day and night, right? And that when he differentiates between day and night, and that's when we're required to enunciate habrocha, or that's when we can enunciate a blessing. But we don't do it before then. I mean, surely we are thinking individuals. Why do we need to wait? If I want to make a blessing, why do I need to wait till the cock crows to announce that it's daytime is coming? And why does the Talmud talk about it? And why does why is this locked in as part of our bracha requirements? And he answers, but in reality, if you have a deeper vision, and if you could see what's happening in the heavens, I continue, that this cock is crowing, that the rooster is crowing, that is because Lamaila, in the heavens, Shorshe, in the absolute root of this rooster, something, its equivalent muzzle, or its equivalent shorish momaila, its source above, in the specific realm which we call Yetzirah, hu malach Gabriel, its root of the class of animals called roosters, comes from the malach Gabriel, comes from the angel Gabriel, and the angel Gabriel is announcing to the world something. And it's announcing to the world something that needs to be done. It's announcing to the world, as we're going to discuss in a moment, it's discussing to the world that it is required that the entities below need to wake up. Now, what does that mean, wake up? We're going to, he discusses in the ensuing lines, but he's telling us that there is an influence above that's sources itself from the angel Gabriel, that affects an activity down below, which is the cock crowing, and that's an announcement. That's an announcement to the world that the day is coming, and because of something happening in the heavens, which we'll elucidate in a moment, but because there's something happening in the heavens, it's reflected down below by the rooster crowing, and that's an announcement to the world. Now, previously we noted that there are different spiritual worlds. We've talked about previously that there are 4 general spiritual worlds: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya, where Atzilus being the highest world, Bria, place of the world where first creation happened, Yetzirah, and Asiya, our physical world. Now, if we look in the text and look at note if we look at note 58, we can see there's a little discussion on the angels and where they reside. And he says over there that angels exist primarily in that world of Yetzirah, which is called the world of angels. A higher type of angel called the Seraphim exists in the world of Bria, and therefore the angels of Seraphim are a higher level of angel than the angels which are in Yetzirah and Asiya. So when we had a reference to the cedar trees and that they are growing, and the cedar trees are very tall trees, that's also a reference to the angels called seraphim, which are, well, or the angels which are higher than the other angels which are below it. Now, coming back to our point, we've mentioned Malach Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, and we've mentioned that his source is in, or his place of residing is in the world of Yetzirah, and where the angel of Gabriel is. And therefore, what we've said, in its source, in the source, in the spiritual source, which is in the realms above, continues our text. B'shorshe be'atzilus, the source of it in the highest realm, in Atzilus, who bechinas, it is part of the spiritual level called Hey Gvuras de Bina, the 5 severities of Bina. Just let's take that as a specific mystical level. But in the realm of Atzilus, that level, Shema'erin, it wakens up the level of spirituality of the 10 spheres called Bechinas HaMalchus. So it energizes the realm of Malchus, Malchus being the 10th sphere of Bina, which we just mentioned is the 2nd sphere in hierarchy. And when the energies which are in Malchus have been awakened up by the 5 Gvuras of Bina, the 2nd level of spheres, Miuridose, when it causes an influence in the lower realms, in the 3 other worlds that we just mentioned, Bri, Yetzirah, Asiya, and it influences them each night. And as it says, the expression that is written, she rises when it's still night and gives food to her household. At midnight, the 5 attributes of Sphira awaken Malchus from its descent into Bia and raise it into Atzilus. And when doing that, it continues the text, and I know this is esoteric, but let's just read it. Al derech zeh b'nivroyim b'briya yetzirah asiyah, that effect that we've just mentioned of the elevations in Bria of what the Hey Gvuras do in the lower realms, it affects the creations in those same spiritual levels, the Bria yetzirah asiyah, so that at the Chatzei Salaylo, when that activity happens at midnight, as we just said before, that Malchus awakens up Bria, so also the righteous people, he continues, who sense these things get up from their sleep in the night, and hine b'chatzei salayla kitcha b'richa hu osi lishdasho im sadikim bekenosa an Eden. And as quote, at midnight, the Holy One blesses, he comes to delight in the righteous of in Gan Eden. And therefore, continues, that's our quote from the Zohar. Therefore, the Lochein Malach Gabriel has been influenced because it resides in those realms, and it continues and it influences. Gabriel influences and then it influences, as he says, Lochein Malach Gabriel Ma'erin Neshamas, that Gabriel comes down and he wakens up the soul. She is ungu, that they should be able to have delight in God, because he's come to meet them in Gan Eden. And they should enjoy the reflection of the Shekhinah B'Gan Eden, Atachton Ve'elyon, in the lower realms and the upper realms. Therefore, this is teaching us that Malach Gabriel's job is to waken up, similar to the idea of the crows, and we'll discuss this a little bit further as we go on, as the crowing of the rooster, which happens at that time, being influenced by the spiritual energies from above. We'll continue this discussion as we go further.